I watched M3GAN last night, and it takes the cake for being the blandest movie of the year. Obviously the joke there is we are only a week into the new year, in case you're watching in the future, but M3GAN is honestly not a terrible film. The movie met my expectations, and while I think the marketing tried way too hard to squeeze James Wan's name in there, the film is a typical horror with no remarkable positives or negatives. The only issue I have with M3GAN is that it doesn't commit to a certain direction. There are some times where the movie feels like it's trying to be a horror comedy, and then there are other instances where the movie tries to be incredibly serious, but this just results in an oddly proportioned film. This failure to commit to a certain direction shows in the world of M3GAN as well, where sentient AI toys exist, but self-driving cars are still a distant future. It's like the movie wants to give you an odd blend of the future while also staying in the present, and the film just doesn't know which way it wants to go. The reason why a lot of the great horror films work is because they decide from the get-go which sides of the spectrum they'll be on. You have serious horror films like The Exorcist, The Ring, and The Witch, which are all fantastic, but on the other side of the spectrum, you have more comedic horror films like The Cabin in the Woods and Scream. These movies are great because they understand where they want to go and what they want their identity to be. M3GAN doesn't feel the same. This movie fails to commit to either side of the spectrum and instead tries to play it safely down the middle, but this just results in an underwhelming taste of both. Besides this identity issue though, M3GAN is a typical horror film. The movie gives you extremely cliche horror tropes, and for some people that might be fine, but others might be looking for something a little more refreshing. I'm going to get into some spoilers here, so if you plan on watching the film, then you may want to come back to this video later. Some of these tropes include showing an object at the beginning, then forgetting about it for an hour, then coming back to make this object the saving grace of the movie. We see this with the proxy robot in the film that Katie uses to finish off M3GAN. You have the usual jump scares, which aren't always a bad thing if that's what you're into. And then we have the ending, where there is a suggestion that the horror lives on by having an electronic in the house flash, indicating parts of M3GAN's programming are still alive. As we all know by now, a horror film apparently can't be effective or scary unless the ending involves the bad guy winning. Most of the time though, this just comes off as a last-ditch effort to spook us or a lazy attempt to set up a sequel. Of course, some horror films elect to avoid this trend, but many of the more modern horror films tend to incorporate this trope. None of these tropes are necessarily bad things. They're just ordinary at this point. As long as you know how the basic horror movie operates, then you could go into M3GAN not having seen it, and you would still know what happens because of how formulaic the genre has become. If we look past this predictability due to tropes, then M3GAN really has nothing else to offer. The characters are massive exaggerations of the real-life archetypes the movie tries to portray, and in the film we never see someone act human. Okay, maybe besides Gemma's neighbor Celia, who appears to be the most human in the movie. Gemma and Katie, who are the focus of the movie, suffer from being too extreme in their own ways. Gemma comes off as unnaturally callous, and Katie seems to lack the ability to think for herself. Yes, I understand she's a child, but I don't think a kid would realistically be this simple-minded. We never even see Katie or Gemma truly mourn the loss of Katie's parents, which is strange because the movie takes place directly after their deaths, which is the time when the family members should be the most emotional. The movie almost expects you to just go along with its logic and story without questioning anything. The prime example of this is with M3GAN's ability to affect other electronic devices to the point where she can open car doors and apparently insert her programming into other AI like we see at the end. But this ability is never explained, and we as the audience are just expected to roll with it. This area could use some improvement, but honestly I'm not really too hungover about it because I really didn't expect anything substantial from this film. If you find the current horror formula engaging and sufficient, then you'll probably like this movie. But if you want something more invigorating, then M3GAN is just another monotonous entry into the genre. With all of that said though, M3GAN is a fun ride and one of the best doll horror movies out there. The film's message is extremely timely with the impact of technology on children, but let's not pretend the film is a masterpiece. It's a fun ride like so many other horror films, and the movie has some really good moments, but that doesn't make it inherently great. I got what I anticipated though, and besides some of the specifics, I really can't complain. But if I'm being totally honest, M3GAN really isn't meant to be taken that seriously, and the movie is perfectly decent. I'm kind of using M3GAN as a way to rant on the horror genre as a whole, because I'm a bit sick of the lack of innovations in storytelling. But don't take that as a knock on M3GAN, because a lot of horror films fall into this area. I enjoyed M3GAN, but it wasn't anything that overtly surprised me like Barbarian or Nope. I understand this movie has a bit of a cult following right now, and I'll probably get some hate for being harsh, but I want to be honest on this movie and not cater this video just to fit the public opinion. I can't speak on your behalf, but for me, M3GAN was everything I expected it to be. Nothing less, nothing more. Those are just my thoughts on M3GAN. Please let me know your thoughts about this movie in the comments below. I try my best to make insightful and original videos here on my channel, and I do all of these videos completely by myself, so all of the support you guys provide really means a lot. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you made it this far, I love you, and I genuinely hope that you have a great rest of your day.